And we are green. Green flag has dropped, and we're here for another episode of Life in the Fast Lane on WagerTalk TV. And we're going to look at the race at Sonoma, another road course. Third time this year they've been on a road course. First time, really the second time, actually, they're on a true road course as they're at COTA, Circuit of the Americas, just 2 weeks ago. So we're going to figure out what we learned from that road course, what we can apply to this week at Sonoma for Sonoma race winners. Before we do so, though, let's bring in my two usual suspects, my two NASCAR experts. Andy Lang, WagerTalk.com. I'm, of course, Steve Merril at WagerTalk.com as well. And then, of course, Rocky Atkinson, SportsMemo.com. And, Rocky, before we move on to the road course in California, let's recap the longest race of the year, the Coca-Cola 600 at Charlotte last weekend on Sunday night. And we had a dominant performance from a guy that has dominated pretty much all season on these intermediate mile and a halves. Give me the Rocky recap for Charlotte last week.
Yeah, Kyle Larson dominated again. He dominated the race, winning his second race of the season. He led 327 out of 400 laps. He also won Stage 1, Stage 2, and Stage 3. Hendrick Motorsports was strong as a group once again. We can't forget 2 races ago in Dover, they finished 1, 2, 3, and 4. They were strong again this past weekend. Larson beat his teammate, second-place finisher Chase Elliott, by over 10 seconds when he took the checker flag. Kyle Busch finished third, and then more Hendrick teammates as William Byron finished fourth, Alex Bowman finished fifth. Austin Dillon was in sixth, followed by Denny Hamlin in seventh, Chris Buescher with a strong run in eighth. Tyler Reddick finished ninth, and Kevin Harvick rounded out the top 10. Harvick still without this year, which is just absolutely me. I don't have the H hat on this week. But Hamlin has still been the most consistent driver this year in the points race at 633 points, just ahead of Kyle Larson and William Byron, who have both been solid with 557 points. Hamlin sits 12th in the playoff standings. Harvick's back in 13th. Austin Dillon, Tyler Reddick, and Chris Buescher round out the top 16 in the playoff standings for now. Matt DiBenedetto, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., who we like to talk about a lot here on the show, and Kurt Busch are currently sitting 17th, 18th, and 19th, just outside looking in heading into this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, just to put in perspective once again how dominant Hendrick was last weekend, as you said, I mean, the last real track, Dover, they finished 1, 2, 3, 4. We had the road course in between, which is kind of a one-off. You can't really take much away from that. And then last week, they were 1, 2, 4, 5. Kyle Busch in the middle at number 3. Otherwise, they do it again. And Andy, we see this every year. You know, there's a team that usually dominates. It's been Gibbs for many years. We've seen Penske at times, been very strong, but Hendrick looks like the team to beat. I mean, I've said it several times for the most of the season. Chase Elliott, the defending Cup champion, was only 4th best on his own team. Byron and Bowman have come out, and then Kyle Larson, a guy we've all talked about since the beginning of the year, that now that he's in a better ride, could really be the most dominant driver in NASCAR, and it's looking that way. And keep in mind, viewers, this is a 1.5 mile cookie cutter, a little bit faster than some, but Charlotte is an intermediate speedway. About half the races on the circuit are 1.5 mile tracks, 1 to 2 mile tracks in this range. And Kyle Larson has been the dominant car. Hendrick has been the most dominant team, it appears. We'll have plenty more of these coming up in recent weeks. But before we move on to the road course, Sonoma, Andy Lang, let me know your thoughts. And also, let's get to the Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Unforced Error Award. You know, for the longest race of the year, Andy, not a lot of chaos. I mean, with Larson dominating like he did, I had actually less nominees probably this week than I've had for many of the shorter races this year, Andy.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked about not a lot of cautions and kind of a little bit of boring race, and I gave out the prop about cars on the lead lap, and that prop hit as the under. And, just to be a little funny here, that's a clean sweep there for me last week on plays. We hit the prop. And I hit my two head-to-heads. So that's good. But yeah, you touched on Hendricks. They've just been incredible. Rocky mentioned Harvick. I got questions about Brad Keselowski. What's going on with that team? What's going on with the Ninja? Because not only does he ninja his way to wins, but he also runs up front. That has not been the case. This is 4 straight finishes outside the top 10 for him. We're seeing some teams really struggle that don't normally struggle. And not only is Hendricks the best team, they're the best team, and it's not close right now. Like you said, one driver was able to penetrate that Hendricks a top 4, and that's been a really dominant performance. We had some nominees, but like you said, not a lot. But whenever you need a nominee for the Stenhouse mess up, guess who always comes through? And that's Ricky Stenhouse, who somehow managed to run into the pace car on the pace lap, which there was absolutely no reason for. I don't know why he did it. It didn't cause any damage, but if there was one guy in NASCAR that you would vote who would run into the pace car, it is our guy, Ricky Stenhouse. Every time we think about renaming the award, Stenhouse just comes through in true color. So congratulations, Stenhouse. You bumped the pace car on the pace lap for absolutely no reason whatsoever. And a couple other guys I want to give shout outs to. Chris Buescher. This guy's fast on mile and a half. This guy needs to be included in your daily fantasy lineups and some head-to-heads next time we're on a cookie cutter track. Tyler Reddick, another top 10 finish. This guy needs to be included in DFS lineups. We all three play in a fantasy league, and if you want to make up ground, playing guys like Buescher, Reddick, who are top 10 guys on these tracks that nobody else is playing. These are guys you need to keep your eye on. They can make you money. These are the guys that can increase your bankroll. So that was my big takeaway. And William Byron, who I've been riding for a while on head-to-head matchups, cashes his head-to-head. So William Byron might be my MVP for head-to-head matchups this season.
Yeah, and it's because, he's still flying a little bit under the radar, and he also is not tiered against, the top guys in some of those head-to-head matchups. You always get like Logano Blaney, Logano Keselowski. By the way, Keselowski could be a play against now for that reason. He's always a guy I'm hesitant to play against in head-to-heads because he's like Harvick and him and Kyle Busch. They might not run well, but they're always top 10. But yeah, Andy, he wasn't top 10 in either of the first two stages, finished 11th overall. This is Keselowski. Something's not right there. Harvick also barely cracked the top 10. Hamlin only had a 9th place in one of the earlier stages, finished like 7th. I mean, these are not guys that were in contention to win, whereas Kyle Busch was. Keep in mind, though, we had practice. Kyle Busch loves his practice. That is not the case, though, this week, guys, as we transfer over to Sonoma. Surprised that they're not doing practice or a one-lap qualify, this being a road course. I'm very surprised by that, actually. I guess since they had practice and qualifying at COTA 2 weeks ago, Circuit of the Americas track in Austin, Texas, maybe they feel like they don't need it, but this is a totally different type of road course. And, Rocky, I'll start with you. I mean, we talk about Watkins Glen and Sonoma. Those are the two known road courses, yet guys do very well at some than others. Keselowski, I believe, has always been better at Watkins Glen, by the way, than he has been at Sonoma. So what's your takeaway? How much are you going to look at COTA 2 weeks ago, Rocky? How much do you look at the Rovals? Charlotte, we had Daytona earlier this year. William Bell, of course, won the Daytona Roval. Chase Elliott, who's won over half the road courses last year, he did win at Circuit of the Americas. But keep in mind, had that gone the full extra 14 laps more before the rain, red flag shorted the race, he was going to have to pit. So Chase Elliott probably does not win a full race there. Kyle Busch pitted early for that reason. Anyway, Rocky, someone you're looking at this week and your overall takeaway, how you're handicapping Sonoma.
Yeah, well, I'm going to look at track history here. I don't think they raced here last year, if I remember correctly, but, we'll look at past history here at this track. It's unique, just like we've said about other tracks before this year. I'll also look at road courses, and I will factor in COTA a little bit, the Charlotte Roval a little bit, and the Daytona road course a little bit as well. But I'll be looking more at Sonoma and Watkins Glen. And they're a little bit different, especially the Charlotte and the Daytona road courses. But we'll also be looking for somebody with some momentum going. Andy mentioned a William Byron. Not a great road course racer, in my opinion, but, somebody that we could look at as far as momentum, stuff like that. But one guy I'm looking at this weekend, I'm going to look at Denny Hamlin. He don't win here, but he does have 4 top 5 finishes, 6 top 10 finishes in 14 races here at Sonoma. Average finish 17.7 at this track, which isn't that good. If you look at the driver, there's really not a lot that's under that 15.0 mark that I like to look at. So 17.7 is actually decent for this track, I think. Over the past 3 years here, though, Hamlin has 2 top 10 finishes in those 2 races, average finish of 7.5, which tells me that he's gotten better here And over the past 10 road course races, Hamlin has 4 top 5 finishes and 5 top 10s with a solid average finish of 9.6. So I'm going to look at Denny Hamlin and maybe a head-to-head matchup this weekend.
Yeah, and as you mentioned earlier, Rocky, Hamlin, Harvick, and Chase Elliott combined had 21 wins last year. They have 1 win this year, but that was Chase Elliott on the road course 2 weeks ago. He did find a way to get it done, although, once again, if it had not been rain shortened, I don't think he was going to end up winning that race. He was going to have to pit, but still, he found a way to get it done. You just get a feeling maybe Hamlin finds a way to get it done this week and get his first win as well. And he's been very good on road courses. He's good everywhere, and he was third, by the way, at the Daytona road course, Andy. Third in stage 1, was ahead in stage 2, and then finished third overall. And that was a little bit of a random finish as well in that race. So he's very good on these tracks. Andy Lang, who's somebody you're looking on the road course in Sonoma, California?
I'll look at a teammate of Denny Hamlin. I'll look at Kyle Busch. Since Talladega, Kyle Busch has the 4th best average finish in NASCAR. It's crazy. It's behind 3 Hendricks drivers, Elliott, Larson, and Byron. So Kyle Busch has been the one guy that seems to be competing with the Hendricks drivers, and 5 straight top 7 finishes at this track. He's always running up front. He's always racing for the lead. And on a track that Chase Elliott has good history, but Bowman not so much, Larson maybe, Byron not so much. You got to look at a guy that is running good now and that runs really good at this track. I'm not too worried about the no practice, just because the road course is mostly about the setup and the handling. It's not about the horsepower. There's you don't have the huge long straightaways and the big banking turns. It's a much different setup. So I got to believe everybody's going to be on the same level. And I like Kyle Busch's track history here.
Yeah, and just a takeaway on the no practice, that concerns me with Busch in general, but I also think it actually could be a real advantage for the veteran drivers because they haven't been here for a couple of years, like Rocky said, and the fact that there's no practice for this track. I mean, if you haven't been here recently and you haven't run a lot here, I don't see how you go out and run well, to be honest. I mean, this isn't a track where you're just making circles. And Kyle Busch, by the way, talk about teams. I mentioned how Gibbs hasn't been as strong as Hendrick. If you look at that Daytona road course, the Roval, the first one this year, Gibbs was extremely strong. We've already touched upon, Denny Hamlin. Kyle Busch was not good in that race. I think he finished 35th, like 1 or 2 laps down. He had some issues, though. Otherwise, I think he would have run well. But he was very good here at COTA a couple weeks ago. And as I mentioned, he pitted trying to catch the early pit without knowing the rain was coming. He would have been 4th, I think, overall in that race. And, of course, Christopher Bell won. Another Gibbs guy won the Daytona race. So, yeah, Gibbs looks really strong this week. And we've mentioned 2 of them already, with Rocky saying Denny Hamlin and Andy saying Kyle Busch. Rocky, who's somebody else you're looking at this week? And by the way, Rocky, you have gone H already. You might not be wearing the hat, but you have gone H already with Hamlin, just for the record. The streak continues, Andy Lang. Okay, Rocky, who's somebody else you're looking at?
Well, the other H, so let's go ahead and mention him, Kevin Harvick. Surprise, surprise. Harvick's not really known, I guess, across the racing as a road course racer, but he does have 1 win here, 10 top 10s and 19 races here in Sonoma. Average finish is 12.7 at this track, which is actually the best among all active drivers. Over the past 3 years here, Harvick has 2 top 10s in those 2 races, average finish of 4th. In 44 career road course races, Harvick has 2 wins, 10 top 5s, 23 top 10s, and average finish of 12.9, which is 3rd best among all drivers. I also like to look at, even though they're not practicing and qualifying, the top 10 drivers, they have an advantage here. So we got Hamlin that I've already mentioned. He's starting 4th. Kyle Busch that Andy mentioned starting 5th. And Kevin Harvick is starting 8th. So I think they have a little bit of an advantage as long as they don't mess up in their pin or have any on-the-track problems. I think your top 10s usually who get here on road course races.
Yeah, it's a good point, Rocky. It's a good point you bring up, Rocky, about the qualifying. We always talk about how overrated it is in general in NASCAR. In fact, I think some of the best angles when they have real qualifying, and Andy's touched about this with Kevin Harvick, actually, of all people, is that he never qualifies well. He's a great head-to-head for that because great fantasy play because he gains a lot of positions. But, yeah, road courses are totally different. I wish they'd done a real qualifying lap so I could see who ran well here, but once again, if you don't have experience on this track, I think it's going to be an issue. And if you're not starting top 10, top 15, it's going to really be an issue. Just a quick takeaway on qualifying. Martin Truex Jr., very good on road courses, very good at Sonoma, starts 19th. Christopher Bell, his teammate, another Gibbs driver who won the Roval in Daytona, starts 20th. So those are two guys that have been good here. Michael McDowell, 21st. McDowell has been much better on road courses and plate tracks than he's been elsewhere. So three guys that are good on road courses starting right in the middle of the pack there. Andy, who's somebody else you're looking at here for Sonoma?
This may be the quickest driver profile ever. Martin Truex Jr. He's won the last two races here. Back to you, Steve.
I'll keep it going, though. I will follow up, good sir. Senator from Indiana, I have a follow-up question. He's starting 19th, though. How much of a concern is that for you?
Zilch, 0.
Okay.
He's good on restarts, and we see these tussles, the bumping and banging up by the front. And every race, several guys get knocked off the track, and guys in this 15th to 20th speed by. And if you get your car set up right, if you get your handling set up, you can absolutely fly. And guys that know this track can blow by people. We remember the days of Marcus Ambrose. If that guy was back in traffic in 20th place, it'd take him 5 laps, and he was up in 4th. So these guys that know how to handle these turns, these guys that know how to root and gouge their way through these breaks, they can absolutely fly through the pack. So someone like Truex, Chase Elliott, some of these guys that dominate on road courses, I don't worry about where they start.
Yeah, and by the way, guys, just looking at the recent road course races this year, now COTA once again was range shortened. It was 14 laps short of the finish. It would have been a different type of result. Top 3 finishers, Elliott, Larson, Logano, were all 8th, 2nd, and 6th. I think they all had to pit still, though. After that, though, 4 of the next 5 guys were 12th or worse. 3 of the next 4 were 20th or back on their starting position. We had a 20, a 27th, and a 23 in the top 7 in that race. So, yeah, at least on the last road course at Circuit of the Americas 2 weeks ago, which had 20 turns, was more of a road course than any on the circuit. I mean, Sonoma, Watkins Glen don't have that many turns. It wasn't a huge issue. And even going back towards the Daytona race this year, we had several guys outside the top 10 that were in the top 5 or 6 finishing positions. So we'll see how it plays out. But once again, Andy likes Martin Truex Jr. He has been dominant at Sonoma, and he is starting 19th due to the qualifying metrics. So we'll see how fast he can move up front. Rocky, who's somebody else you're looking at Sonoma?
I think we got to mention Chase Elliott here. He hasn't won here in Sonoma. He has 1 top 5, 2 top 10s, and 4 races here. Average finish is 17.5 at this track, not very good. Over the past 3 years, he has 1 top 5 finish here in 2 races. But Elliott has dominated road courses recently. 6 wins, 7 top 5 finishes, 8 top 10 finishes in his last 10 road course races. Average finish of 7.4 during that time. Until he shows us different, he's definitely somebody we've got to look at playing on when it comes to these road course tracks.
Yeah, I mean, it almost seems too simple, but if there's ever a race, as I've said several times here on this show, where experience and past history matters, it's this week. They weren't there last year. They've had no practice or qualifying on this track. So how else are you going to handicap it other than looking at who's good on road courses? And Chase Elliott has just been dominant. And yes, maybe he was fortunate to get the win, but he still found a way to win the last road course 2 weeks ago. And regardless if he had to pit or not with less than 14 laps to go, he was one of the best drivers on that track, and he moved up through the field. So maybe the argument is, well, he didn't do well at Daytona earlier this year. He only finished, what was it, guys? I think he finished 21st after starting on the pole. Well, guess what? He led 44 laps in that race. Nobody else led more than 10. And he was 1st and 6th in the first 2 stages. So a very misleading finish at the back. He was the driver to beat there. And they ran that little gimmick race beforehand, before the 500 or whatever, a week or 2 earlier. He was dominant in that race. Him and Blaney, I think, went head-to-head and wrecked each other. And I think Kyle Busch, actually, if I'm not mistaken, Kyle Busch snuck in from 3rd to win that one. So another, guy that's been good on road courses. But, yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? So, yeah, Chase Elliott, an automatic favorite for good reason. Andy, who's somebody else you're looking at?
Well, just a really, really big picture thing. What an advantage Chase Elliott has moving forward in his career. NASCAR really looks like they're moving more towards a lot more road course races. And, this is one of those things where instead of having 2 road courses, what does Chase Elliott get, 4 a year, 3 a year? I mean, it's not a guaranteed win, but he's going to be one of the tops. And with the way the playoff seedings works, you get a win. So if he's struggling on ovals, he's always got this road course thing to lay back on. This is a real advantage for him moving forward if NASCAR is going to move more towards these road courses. As far as the next driver, I got to keep riding him. I got to ride. Sometimes you just ride the hot hand. He's raced at Sonoma 4 times, and he's terrible. Averaged a finish of 18.3, but he's been so good this year. I just can't get away from William Byron. He's on the best team right now. He's arguably the second or third best driver on that team. He's been cashing head-to-heads week after week. I just like to ride guys that are running really good. And sometimes when you see guys that get on these hot streaks, they can overcome these tracks that they've struggled at when they're extra confident, when they're feeling great about their pit crew, when they're feeling great about their team strategy, when they're feeling good about the car, you just perform better. So I like guys that have a lot of momentum. William Byron is one of those. I'll probably be on him this week.
Yeah, look, I'm not going to play against William Byron this week or probably any time this season for the reasons you just mentioned, but I probably won't be on him this week. And keep in mind, the only race, Andy, what is it? Was it 11 out of the last 12 races? He's been top 10 and maybe 11 now. And the only one he wasn't, he was 11th at the road course at Coda, but he still overcame a ton to finish
without
11th,
a fender, without a back fender.
Yeah, you could very well argue he was a top 10 healthy car probably in that race. But he did have a practice session. This is a guy that learns like on no other. Keep in mind, he didn't start racing until he was 12 on any level. He didn't get into like a real stock car until he was like 15 or 16. And I believe he's only 22 or 23 now. This guy learns like there's nobody else out there. And he also does a lot of the virtual racing. So we'll see if that helps him here at Sonoma. Once again, I'm not going to play against him. Probably not a top 3 or 4 guy for me this week for the uncertainty. But yeah, he's been lights out, and he's the future star of NASCAR, by the way. Kyle Larson is here. We've seen what he can do. He stays out of trouble, which I think he will. I think he and William Byron for the next 5 or 10 years are going to be the Jimmy Johnson, Jeff Gordons. By the way, Andy, I believe there's 7 road courses. If you factor in the Rovals at Charlotte and Daytona, which Chase Elliott dominates more so than the road courses probably, there's 7, I believe, this year. That is just under 20% of the races. That means 1 out of every 5 is a race Chase Elliott should dominate. So that's 5 to 7 wins over the course of the season if you win, say, 5 out of 7 of them, which he's been doing recently. So, yeah, he wasn't the best driver last year. And as I said earlier, he's maybe only been the 4th best driver in his own team this year. But it's going to really set up well for championships, especially if they put one of those, which I think they're going to do, in the playoffs. That's almost an automatic advance for him to the next round. So, yeah, future odds, you got to take that into consideration.
I got to say, they should put at least one in the championship. I thought that was kind of a hole in. Well, there's lots of holes in NASCAR's thinking. It doesn't take too long to think of a bunch of things that NASCAR messes up. But not having a road course in the championship, I thought was a big deal. Now, I will say they're going a little overboard. I heard Michael Waltrip say, "Well, the fans have been asking for us to add a lot of road courses, so we did." And it was like, no. That's not true. That's just an unequivocal lie. You just lied to the camera, and you lied. We were not asking for 7 road courses. These are cars that are built to go around ovals and not fly around in the rain or fly around the desert on road courses. Like, yeah, you can be honest with us. They added it for other reasons, but it wasn't because the fans were asking for it. Give me a break.
Yeah, and it's a terrible race for fans to watch, by the way. You can only see like 1/10 of the race at any given time. So that's the thing also. And I'm glad you brought the rain. It's something we forgot to mention, Rocky, as we were talking about Coda, what we take away from that. That race was a mess. I mean, it was a downpour. Harvick, and by the way, Andy, you mentioned Truex. He was taken out of that race because of the rain. He had to slam on his brakes. He gets rear-ended. Harvick and Blaney, the same situation. So once again, while we might look at the road course 2 weeks ago, I'm not putting much stock in that except for what I saw with my own eyes, watching the race, taking my notes. I'm not going to look at the numbers and the results because, once again, it was rain shortened, 14 laps to go. It would have been a different finish. Harvick, Blaney, Truex, those guys were taken out. They're always good at these type of tracks a lot of times. And it just wasn't a true finish and results. And it was also a slop fest. It was like a horse race in extreme mud and rain. So keep in mind, viewers, Coda 2 weeks ago, heavy downpour. Let's hope we don't have that in Sonoma. Rocky, who's something else you're looking at? A long shot, maybe? What else are you looking at here for Sonoma this week?
I'll throw out a long shot out there. Kurt Busch, 25-1. He does have one win here, 7 top 5 finishes, 10 top 10s, and 19 races here in Sonoma. His average finish is a very solid 13.6 at this track. If we look over the past years here, he has 3 top 5, 6 top 10s. Excuse me, this is road course races. Over the past 3 years, he has 3 top 5s, 6 top 10s, and 10 races. Average finish of 11.2, which is very solid. I'm looking for Kurt Busch to run maybe top 10 this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, it checks all the boxes. You know, I've got criteria for different tracks, different weeks, different races. I mean, this week, my number one criteria is experience, you know, as I keep saying, because there's no practice. They weren't here last year. They haven't raced here for 2 years. And Kurt Busch checks all those boxes. He knows how to get around. He's done well. His brother Kyle, who we've already mentioned, has done well as also. So you've got the double Busch factor. And by the way, you just look at some of Kurt's numbers. Over all the active drivers here at Sonoma, he's had the most starts here, 19 along with Kevin Harvick, who's going to be in the race. Ryan Newman, by the way, is 18th. I don't know, Andy. I don't want to steal your long shot. I honestly don't know who it is, but Newman's probably a guy we can mention as a long shot. He's consistent every week. We talk about Chris Buescher. You know, it's Buescher and Newman every week, those mid $6,000 guys on the fantasy contests that are just automatic value, in my opinion. But yeah, Kurt Busch, 19 starts. Kyle Busch, 15 starts. They get around here, and Kurt's been top 10 in 10 of those 19. And he has won. So, you know, he's a guy definitely could make sense. And I think I can hardly call him a long shot, but he is the definition of a long shot, 25-1. Andy, what's someone you're looking at here?
Yeah, Kurt Busch plus 150, top 10.
Wow.
So that's incredible value. That's really good. You know, these road courses are pretty tough because there's not a lot of long shots that finish good. We don't have a lot of the ringers. We don't have the AJ Allmendingers, you know, some of these other guys that specialize. But I will throw out Daniel Suarez as a potential long shot that could see a top 10 finish. He's got a string of sneaky good finishes. He's had a couple this year, and I'm looking on DraftKings right now, and 3-1 to finish top 10. That's potential, and then 101 to win. I wouldn't waste my money on that, but I could see a sprinkle on 3-1 for Suarez. A couple things go your way, and you got to know that there's you have to believe that there's going to be some wrecks and some incidents with some guys in the top 10 and the top 5 when they're battling for position. They get pushed off the track and everyone blows by them. So someone like Suarez that may be running in 13th or 14th probably can sneak into the top 10. So I don't think 3-1 is a bad price on Suarez.
Yeah, and by the way, starting positions, Kurt Busch is 30th, so he's pretty back there. But Suarez, surprisingly, Andy, is 16th. I'm surprised to see him starting that high. And boy, how about this for the 8th grid, the row 8 grid? Bubba Wallace, 15th, Suarez, 16th. If there are 2 guys that NASCAR wants to hype, they're trying to hype, that just aren't good enough to get any hype, it's those 2 guys. You know, with Pitbull now as part owner of Suarez's team, they had a little something pre-race again at Charlotte. And you know, Bubba Wallace is another guy they want to hype as well. So row 8. If the conspiracy theories play out, row 8 might be live for some long shots at this track. We'll see how that plays out. But yeah, Suarez is a guy, you know, obviously has a little bit more road experience than Wallace does. I'm not saying play Wallace, but yeah, Suarez makes sense. And he's a guy that would not surprise me. At 3-1, I'm actually surprised it's that high because they usually really skew those top 10 odds. I like 3-1 actually top 10 for him. He could definitely sneak in there, and he's starting 16th, so it's doable. Rocky, you know, we talked about a play on long shot. You got to play against guy. I mean, I think, you know, these head-to-head matchups, especially at a road course where certain guys struggle year in and year out, and I've talked about how no practice, no qualifying. They haven't been here since 2019. There's probably some play against guys that jump out to you. Who's someone you're looking at?
Well, you just mentioned him, Bubba Wallace. He's starting 15th. Shocker?
No, I didn't know. I got to start looking at the notes. You guys actually might be saying that I don't read the notes too well. The viewers are like, well, Merril just knows what everyone's going to say.
There's no need to send a note about who Rocky's fading this week.
I like being surprised. Yeah, but Bubba's awful on road courses. You're right, Rocky.
Yeah, and he's starting in 15th. So I don't know who he's going to be matched up with, but it's very possible we might get some good value there with him starting in 15th. But as far as his numbers, he has no wins, no top fives, no top tens, and 2 races here in Sonoma. Average finish is 27.5 at this track. He has 10 career road course races, no wins, no top fives, no top tens, average finish of 27.9. His best road course finish is 21st. So we're going to be looking to fade Bubba this weekend.
And once again, he's starting 15th. Suarez is starting. Andy, you might want to start getting a little nervous here because I'm looking at the starting grid. We've got Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 14th, Bubba Wallace 15th. And then we've got Suarez 16th, who you've mentioned. We've got Truex Jr., who you've mentioned 19th. I mean, this could start off really bad for some of your picks here if those guys take each other out on lap 1. Stenhouse and Bubba Wallace starting right near each other on a road course. Boy, that's got a recipe for disaster. And once again, right behind them is Suarez, DiBenedetto, Jones, Truex, and Bell and McDowell, guys that have been very good road course racers. They're going to earn their money this week getting by those 2 guys safely. But, yeah, Bubba Wallace not good on these tracks. Andy, who's somebody else you're looking as a play against?
You know, this is a big-name guy, and he's had some really good finishes, but for whatever reason, he's really bad at these road courses. This is Joey Logano. So you take the average of the last 3 Sonoma races and the last 2 races at Watkins Glen, he's average finished at 22.8. This is behind Stenhouse, Michael McDowell, Ryan Newman, Chris Buescher, Matt DiBenedetto, Daniel Suarez, Eric Almirola. For whatever reason, Joey Logano just does not do well at these road courses. And he had good finish at Coda, and he's done okay at the Roval. But I struggle to really compare the Roval and Coda with these courses. They're different. You know, the Roval, they've got that big straightaway that takes away a lot of the road course-esque elements of Sonoma and Watkins Glen. So when I'm looking at some of these road course histories and I see how bad Joey Logano has consistently been and how good he is at the ovals, I think we could get some really juicy matchups. Because if the books are looking at Joey Logano and they're saying, well, this is a top-tier driver on a top-tier team, and he's done really good on these oval courses, let's pair him up against, I don't know, Kurt Busch or Denny Hamlin, and you got to be licking your chops at something like that. So we're looking at course history. I'm looking to fade Joey Logano big time this week.
Yeah, and he's only led 18 total laps in 11 races at Sonoma. So once again, he does have 4 top 10s in 11 races, but he's never really been in contention. And, you know, also he's finished every one of those, and he's only been top 10 4 out of 11 times. So, yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. That's how I kind of approach these tracks. And by the way, he has been a teeny bit better at Watkins Glen, as has his teammate Keselowski, as I mentioned earlier in the show. But he hasn't been great at either, and he's been actually weaker at Sonoma of the 2. So, yeah, you know, a play against guys and a guy that's going to finish dead last or wreck. You know, it's a guy that maybe is going to finish top 10 barely against a guy that's going to finish top 5, because Logano is pitted against usually Keselowski and Blaney. They always do those because they're teammates. Keselowski has been pretty consistent on these tracks, so I think Keselowski over Logano would make some sense in that head-to-head. But Logano is pitted against a lot of other guys sometimes, including guys like Truex and some of the big names. So we'll see where that comes out. Rocky, speaking of head-to-head matchups, and a quick reminder, everybody, Rocky's at sportsmemo.com. Over 100 NASCAR wins the past 3+ years, over 40 net units, 40 net races won, even more units, as these are sometimes 2, 3, 5, 10-unit plays. And Rocky's also on Twitter at Rocketman Sports. He puts up a ton of great free NASCAR information. First race of the season, he didn't sell anything. He went 7-3 in the Daytona 500 for free on Twitter. So that's at Rocketman Sports. And then he's been hitting it hard here recently. We all had some bad breaks. We talked about really some cut tires, 90% laps led, and then not winning the head-to-heads. We've gotten those out of the way. Now is the time to get on board both of these guys. Rocky at Sports Memo, Andy Lang at WagerTalk.com. And Rocky Atkinson, what's a free head-to-head you can give us for this weekend?
I'm going to go with Eric Jones over Eric Almirola. Jones has 2 top 10 finishes in 3 races here in Sonoma, has the 3rd best average finish among all active drivers at this track at 13.3 over the past 3 years here. He has 2 top 10s in those 2 races, an average finish of 7.5. Almirola has no wins, no top 5 finishes, 2 top 10s in 8 races here in Sonoma, average finish 19.6 at this track. He has only 2 top 10 finishes in his 23 career road course races with an average finish of 20.8. Although Jones did downgrade this year to the 43 car, still this is a unique track and he knows how to get around it. So I'm going to play Eric Jones to finish ahead of Eric Almirola this weekend.
Yeah, not only for a free head-to-head matchup. I mean, that's just a great long shot. I'm seeing him at plus 350 right now for a top 10. And just to put in perspective how good Jones is, of his 3 races at Watkins Glen, the best average finish of anybody running this week. 3 races at Sonoma in his career, he's got the 3rd best average finish of anybody at Sonoma running this week. So this may very well, based on average finish the last 3 years or so, this has been the best guy at Watkins Glen and Sonoma combined. Now, Rocky, you've mentioned him a few times this year. I've been a little lukewarm on him because I honestly think the 43 team is that weak. But like you said, there's one track where it matters less. It's Sonoma. It's not about horsepower and speed. It's about skill. My biggest concern here, guys, is really the crew, the pit stops. Is the crew as good as these other big-time teams? I think they probably are. I think it's more mechanical with Petty than the talent level. And I think Jones is a really good driver. He was strong in the 20 car. And keep in mind, Christopher Bell's now in that he did win the Roval earlier at Daytona. So hopefully it wasn't a 20-car thing. I think Jones has some skill as a driver and great head-to-head there. And once again, these head-to-heads, we're putting them out Friday before many of the odds and matchups are out. Rocky will have his strongest best bets this weekend at sportsmemo.com. Rocky Atkinson, sportsmemo.com for his strongest NASCAR best bets. But that's a pretty good one right there for free. And as I know you know, Andy, Eric Almirola, his play against there has been snake-bitten this year, as we pointed out here on this show. Andy, what's a free play you're looking at here? The prop master, Andy Lang, by the way, not only here on the show with Squeegee's Windex last week or Wind Dry, whatever that's called, and then this week he had the broom because he swept last week, folks. He's heating up. He got the bad beats out of the way as well. Get Andy's best bets at WagerTalk.com. And what's a free play for the show this week, Andy?
This is up on DraftKings right now. Battle of the Kyles. Kyle Busch versus Kyle Larson. I'll take Kyle Busch. His finishes are just way better at Sonoma. Kyle Busch, we said before, 5 straight top 7 finishes at this track. They've raced together 6 times at Sonoma. Kyle Busch is 6-0 straight up, head-to-head against Larson at Sonoma. I don't really know why Larson isn't great here. Maybe we see a rejuvenated, a little bit better Larson. But sometimes tracks just don't fit well with drivers. We've seen Blaney, who's just terrible at a couple of tracks. We've seen Harvick, who is unbelievable at some tracks. And for whatever reason, Kyle Larson just does not race well at Sonoma. Kyle Busch does. So I'll take the driver that loves racing at this track over the driver that does not. I'll take Kyle Busch over Kyle Larson.
Yeah, in 12 starts combined at Watkins Glen and Sonoma, he's only led 17 total laps in 12 races, Kyle Larson. He has not been in position to win. He only has 1 top 5 in 6 starts at Watkins Glen. And Kyle Larson, I believe, has only 1 top 10 in his 6 starts at Sonoma, as you're talking about, not very good there. And, boy, you talk about some recency bias. I mean, he's been the most dominant guy on the intermediate tracks. But, once again, this is not an intermediate track. He dominates last week on national TV. Got to figure the line's going to be a little inflated maybe for that reason, just from the recreational bettors. And Kyle Busch has been great. Kyle Larson has not shown us anything yet. Hey, look, I think he's extremely talented. So you're right, Andy. It wouldn't surprise me if he came out. But he didn't race at all last year. Nobody was on this track last year, but he didn't race at all last year, and he's been very mediocre in his career. Now there's no practice, no qualifying. I don't see how you just flip a switch all of a sudden and fix that, especially after a huge win last week and now traveling cross country. I smell letdown this week from Kyle Larson. I won't be saying that too many races this year, but I think that makes a lot of sense. So once again, Andy Lang likes Kyle Busch over Kyle Larson as a free head-to-head. Rocky Atkinson has Eric Jones over Eric Almirola. And both Kyle Busch and Eric Jones are guys we've mentioned on the show here. They've been good on road courses. I think they'll be good again this week. Once again, WagerTalk.com to get Andy Lang's best bets for this weekend. Not only NASCAR, but he is the prop master, not only here on this show with the actual props, but prop betting as well with the NHL, NBA. Do you have any baseball props, Andy? Have you gotten into the baseball props?
We got one base, or actually we have 2 baseball plays up today. One's a full game. One is a first 5 inning. And if you use the promo code LANG39, it gets you 3 days access for the price of 1. So for $39, you get 3 days worth of plays, which on Friday is perfect because you're going to get golf plays throughout the weekend. You're going to get NBA and NHL props, MLB plays, and then NASCAR and Formula One. We're doing great in NHL and NBA playoffs on props. It's been a lot of fun and very, very profitable for the bankrolls. So yeah, promo code Lang39, 3 days for the price of 1 day.
Awesome. Lang39, WagerTalk.com. And Rocky, are you doing NHL playoffs? I know you've done hockey over the years. You do baseball, basketball. You got the NHL also at Sports Memo?
Yeah, I passed tonight. I got a baseball play up for tonight. 44 and 24, 65%. My last 68 baseball plays. So not too bad.
Awesome. And there's a good
bad.
TikTok video out there, by the way,
just
guys.
Not too bad. Just, one of the best in the industry. Just not too bad. Just on fire. Just killing it. Not too bad.
Rocky is a baseball expert, though. He also, in his free times, he peruses TikTok, and he sent Andy and me a pretty cool one where a guy's hitting a home run, hitting a truck. So Rocky loves his baseball. He sends us random videos on TikTok and everything. That's how much he loves baseball. But yeah, he's a red hot there in all sports. And once again, NASCAR, he's just crushed it. Over 100 wins the last 3+ years in NASCAR best bets. So once again, Rocky Atkinson, sportsmemo.com, at Bump Sports on Twitter. At Rocketman Sports, sportsmemo.com. Andy Lang is at Bump Sports. Andy Lang at Bump Sports on Twitter and WagerTalk.com. Lang39 for that. What is it, a 3-day special, right, Andy? 3-day special, Lang39. Awesome.
Yep, $39 gets you 3 days worth of plays.
And that's a great time to do it. If you're watching this on Friday night, you're getting the full weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So take advantage of that now. If you're watching this on Saturday or Sunday, take advantage of it through Monday or Tuesday. It's good for 3 days. Whenever you're watching and you decide to sign up. And of course, Steve Merril, myself, Steve Merril at WagerTalk.com. 17-4 NBA run as we head into Friday night. And that includes a $2 loss. Rocky and I both lost our $2 plays a couple weeks ago. And I know it irritates you, Rocky. It irritates me. Everyone jumps on and then they jump off. Well, they've missed going 17-3 on all my other NBA players on each side of that selection, including, I think it's now 10-1 since. So, look, just making a point, you might want to consider an investment approach and a direct subscription with any of these guys. Rocky Atkinson at Sports Memo, Andy Lang at WagerTalk, or myself, Steve Merril, also at WagerTalk.com. And right now I've got a promo code SM999, half price for the next full year, 365 days of all sports. That's like $1.40 per play. I average about 2 to 3 plays a day. I did the math. It's less than $1.40 a play for the next year, every sport, every day. I mean, basically, if you're not taking an investment approach to that offer, then that's all I need to know. So once again, SM999, that's your chance to take a long-term investment approach, get a full year for half price. WagerTalk.com and SportsMemo.com. Hey, guys, great show as always. Good luck this weekend at Sonoma. We're going to check the schedule. I believe they're off next week, so we'll let the viewers know next week. Might have an off week here as well, but then we'll be back in the near future on Friday nights for more life in the fast lane right here on WagerTalk TV. Please subscribe to WagerTalk TV for this great free content every day. Give us a thumbs up, like the video if you appreciated the content, and most importantly, leave us a comment below. We love your comments. We love interacting with you, and I want to see your top 3 predictions for Sonoma. It's going to be a very interesting race this weekend. Let me know how you're tackling this road course and who you like this week and your long shots as well. Once again, comment below, like, subscribe to WagerTalk TV. We'll be back in the near future for more Life in the Fast Lane right here. Good luck this weekend.